Welcome to another lesson. This lesson is on a tool that I call S.O.A.R. All right, so this is not one of our foundational tools. This is not part of the framework here, but this is a very important tool and concept for you moving forward to do your best thinking. So you've got some good ideas and you got some bad ideas, right? And the goal is to have more of the one and less of the other, right? Hopefully more of the good and less of the bad. And this tool is something that I found incredibly helpful in doing the thing that this business needs desperately, which is to have your best ideas, to do some of your best thinking so that then you can do your best working. You've heard it said, I'm sure, that we need to work smarter, not harder, right? So we are good at working hard. That is a truth of business owners, is they work very hard. You're not afraid of work. You're not afraid of labor. You're not afraid of really digging into something that's difficult. That's admirable, that's important. But what we need to do is work smarter. We need to take that ethic or that effort and we need to focus it on some better things. All right, and that's not rocket science, right? I'm sure you're tracking with me. So we need to have some more good ideas and less bad ideas. And so this tool, S.O.A.R, is an exercise that you can use to do some thinking, all right, to set yourself aside to do your best thinking. And really what we want to do, the word soar, right, we want to kind of get up above the weeds. We want to get out of the weeds and get some perspective. Often when you've had your best ideas, they've come in moments where you had some objectivity, some perspective. You've been able to look at yourself or your business or your family or your health from the outside in. So when we talked about the WTF tool, that's an example of getting out of the weeds. And often there are walls that we hit that make us wake up, where we suddenly see better because we hit a wall. We're like, wow, I didn't know that was in my path, this wall, right? So the S.O.A.R is an acronym, S-O.A.R, and it, first of all, represents getting up above the weeds. All right, so getting some good perspective. In order to do that, we've got to, first of all, sequester. So the S is for sequester. So you want to be able to set yourself aside. The sequester just kind of means to barricade yourself in, or firewall. Firewall is a great term for that. So sequester, you want to set yourself aside or block out the distractions, okay? The O is for observe. So you want to be able to get into a position where you can make some observations about yourself, about your stuff, about your life, about how you're thinking, right? You want to be able to kind of like start to see things, all right? And then the third, the A is for apprehend. And that means when you see some things, you really want to get your hands on it. You really want to understand or apprehend or acquire the truths that you're starting to see. So you're setting yourself into a position where nothing's distracting you, where you can make some great observations, and then where you can kind of get your head around what you just saw. Often we see things, but then we don't take the time to understand it. We don't take the time to digest it or take the time to say, what does this mean? And then lastly, we need to record what we saw and understood, all right? So it's going to take some effort to put yourself in a position where you see some stuff so you want to write it down, all right? You want to take and capture that idea, that thought, that concept, that kind of aha, that epiphany, if you will. And remember earlier in the WTF tool, I said epiphanies are costly. It takes an investment of some sort to have an epiphany. And the costly epiphanies are the one where you go, I never should have been treating my body this way, and that's why I'm sick. Or, that's why I got into this nasty relationship. I never should have. And there's some sort of wall that creates an expensive or costly epiphany. Well, this kind of tool is going to help us avoid the expensive epiphany. This is one of the ways that we find cheaper epiphanies. Okay, so when you have that cheap epiphany, you want to write that thing down. You want to record it. Now, we don't know what to do with these yet. That's not necessarily an issue, okay? You might have some great ideas out of this session, this S.O.A.R session, but you just want to file them. Just grab them, file them. You may be focusing on something very specific in a S.O.A.R session, and you may be focusing on something a little more broad. That's okay. We just want to write that down and record it. Okay, and so this is a session. So to be practical, what this looks like, and this for me, this looks this way, and I encourage you to do this, is it's a 1 to 2 hour session. Okay, this is 1 to 2 hours where you're in the place that you do your best thinking. Now, this may take a minute for you to process, but I want you to think about where you do your best thinking. All right, so, and that's really what we're trying to do here, is do our best thinking. We're not trying to do our best working and not our best managing. We're not trying to do our best production. Okay, we're trying to do something very specific, which is our best thinking. So I want you to start off with that. It might be the coffee shop. It might be taking a walk. It might be at the park. It might be in a cabin somewhere. It may be sitting on your back porch, front porch, I don't know, at the park. But somewhere where you do your best thinking, okay? Now, this next point is very important. You need to be incredibly stingy about the digital devices in your pocket or on the table in front of you. And I would suggest no digital, or at least go airplane mode, all right, at the very least. Now, I love to listen to music, and music is an important part of everything I do. And I do my best thinking and working when music is part of it. Okay, so so as far as digital, I have some music involved in my headphones or on a device of some sort, but I kill the ability for that device to distract me with emails and texts and so forth, so on. Okay, so at the very least, make it so that you're not being called, you're not checking email, you're not looking at Facebook or any of those other time-sucking, brain-sucking activities. Okay, so you want to eliminate distractions. All right, you want to have, it's helpful to have a tablet of paper. I love these, I use these horizontal yellow tablets. When I found these horizontal yellow tablets, it changed my life. So you can, but just some nice paper, a nice pen, your favorite writing utensil, if you will. And I've got up here, instruments. So one of the things about if in music or art or any of these kind of endeavors, or you can go into mechanical stuff or auto repair, any of those kind of things. A good tool in your hand is pleasing to work with, and it helps you to do your best work. When you're, for instance, with music, you could be a great musician, but if you have a lousy instrument, it is going to hamper you're just not going to do your best work. You're not going to be inspired. You're not going to put out inspirational stuff. It's going to constantly pull at you and distract you. And so it's really important that you have in your hand some instruments, quote unquote, that are pleasing to work with. All right, so I have found that it's a little silly, okay, but I've found that having really good paper and a really good pen make it so I do some of my best thinking. I know that sounds a little bizarre, but it's true. So those are a couple practical tips. Now, when you go into a S.O.A.R event, I would suggest that you have one subject that you're thinking about. So in our last lesson, we talked about Land of Awesome. So if you were to say, what's my Land of Awesome? And take and write that in the middle of a sheet of paper, right here in the middle, and put a box around it. Just write my Land of Awesome, put a box around it. And you put that in the middle of that sheet of paper. And then what that does is it gives you permission to just think. You don't have to look at that paper and say, what do I write now? You know, you're not writing an outline. You're not putting down a bunch of bullet points per se. You're just collecting your thoughts. And think doodle, right? Think you're, when I was a kid and you'd get on the phone with the long wire, often you could see if somebody had been on the phone for a while because there was some sheet of paper there where people had doodled on it, right? Just lots of little kind of writing and stuff. And so if you think doodling, give yourself permission. That gives you permission to think, actually. It kind of releases a certain part of your mind, and you're able to do some of your best thinking. So I just want you to kind of doodle on this topic. So if it's the Land of Awesome, you just give yourself permission to start writing down your thoughts and surrounding that box with your thoughts. And what'll start to happen is you'll think better, and you'll start to see, oh, here's what my Land of Awesome is. Okay, so that's the S.O.A.R tool, super simple. Hopefully this will help you do some of your best thinking, capture some of your best thinking. As you work on this, I would love for you to send out just a update to your teacher. Here, I did the S.O.A.R tool, it worked like this, I figured this thing out. Just jot down at some point, if you have a great experience, what that looked like, where you were at, so we can share it with your classmates. So that's the S.O.A.R tool. Good luck with that. Mark Whitmore, head coach, Lodestone, True North.